My name is Leigh Tucker, and I'll be your moderator for this evening's event. Welcome to the South Euclid Local Candidates Forum for City Council. The format for this evening will be as follows. There will be opening statements for 2 minutes by the candidates, and we do time the opening statements. And then there will be a question and answer session. The audience will submit note cards and to the people that will be collecting. They'll identify themselves, and you can also get the note cards from them if you don't have note cards. They will submit the questions, and then I will answer the questions that the audience submits. This is not a debate. I just want to remind everybody this is not a debate, so there will be no rebuttals. It's just a question and answer session. A couple housekeeping items before we get started. If you could please turn off your cell phones or put them on mute. The candidates, our timers are here. Timers, raise your hands. The candidates' questions will be limited to 1 minute. They will get a 30-second warning, and then they will be notified to stop. Do we have our candidate screeners in the room? Okay, still wrong with their screeners. Because we don't have them down there. Oh, okay. You have the cards? Okay, so the two screeners are here. They'll be passing out cards and also collecting questions. I'm sorry, I apologize. So the candidates' answers will be limited to 1 minute. They'll be given a 30-second warning, and then they'll be notified to stop. Due to the number of candidates and the limited time that we have, we're going to have hard 1 minute stops. I will try to let you finish your answers as much as possible, but I will cut you off, let you know that your time is up. Again, the note cards will be collected. You can ask questions, one, several, or all of the candidates. I will try to ask all the candidates the same question. It's not going to be in the same order. I'm going to go in alphabetical order. That's how we're going to start off, in alphabetical order. Replies to the questions, again, are limited to 1 minute. I have to keep reiterating this because a lot of times the candidates go over. And so when I cut you off, I'm not trying to be rude, and I do want the audience to hear what your response is, so just try to keep it brief. If you want to ask the question, a follow-up question, be sure to write that down on a note. If your question wasn't answered fully, make sure to capture that again. And we ask that the audience avoid expressions of support or opposition to any candidates during the presentation. Due to the time constraints, and if you are no longer, if you have to leave early, the candidates have information. Out on the table. So let's get started. We will start with the introduction of the candidates, and Mr. Marty Gelfand is up first. Yes, Marty Gelfand will go first.
Good evening. My name is Marty Gelfand. I have lived in South Euclid since 2003, and I grew up in the area just about a mile from where I live now. I live there with my family, Shirley and Eden Gelfand, who are here. We live in the Cleveland Heights section of South Euclid, Cleveland Heights University School section of South Euclid. My daughter goes to Garrity Elementary School, where she's been since preschool. I am the chairman of the safety committee on City Council. I've been for the last 6 years. Barely into my second year on council, I was looking at a budget, the new budget for police and fire, and we were set to cut. And I said to the mayor, I can't support this. We can't cut police and fire. And she said, well, you're on council now. That's the legislative branch. Find the money. And we worked together closely along with the other council members. We had a series of meetings. We found that the best way to raise the money to keep our safety forces intact was to have a safety levy. That passed in 2013. I chaired that safety levy. I became the chairman of the safety committee after that. I've worked with our police and fire departments. I've also sometimes challenged them. For instance, on the nuisance ordinance. We have a nuisance ordinance that's very good, helps people be good neighbors and helps people have good neighbors. But sometimes there are limits. One limit that I put on there, pushed through council, got unanimously passed, is to take domestic violence out of that, because a victim of domestic violence suffers enough being a victim, and then I don't want to see their landlords called and said, you know, they're a nuisance. So then they get the second violence by being kicked out of their homes through eviction or not getting their leases renewed. So that's one limit. There are other limits. I believe in having a strong police and fire department. I also believe in limits, and I've got a welcoming community resolution passed. So South Euclid is now a welcoming community, which we recognized was needed due to changes in immigration. My time is up, and I thank you for giving me the opportunity to be here.
Thank you. Ms. Hardy?
Hi, my name is Susan Hardy. I'm 34 years old, and I'm a 13-year resident and mother of 4 young children. I'm the PTA Vice President of my eldest daughter's elementary school, Adrian Elementary, the committee chairman for Cub Scout Pack 424, the head of my neighborhood block club, the Historic Bluestone District, an active member of the Bexley Community Group, and recently appointed to the city's Recreation Committee. Some of my current community projects are passing out welcome bags to new neighbors in my block club, working towards getting a new playground built at my daughter's elementary school, recently I was on a neighborhood committee that helped build 8 new garden beds in the Winston Pocket Park. I have a Bachelor's of Arts in Urban Studies with a focus in public administration from Cleveland State University, and a Master's in Library and Information Science with a focus in Archives and Records Management from Kent State University. I enjoy being involved at the local level. It gives me the opportunity to communicate with my neighbors one-on-one and listen to all the good ideas everyone has to offer to build our city up. I hope to earn your trust and your support this November 5th. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Orr?
Hello, everyone. My name is Curtis Orr. I've lived in the city for 5 years. Like most of the candidates, I've taken a different route to the city of South Euclid. Originally, I was born and raised on the island of St. Croix in the Virgin Islands. I came here in 1988. I had to play basketball at Tri-C. And I decided I like Cleveland so much, I decided to stay. I have a bachelor's degree from Cleveland State in urban studies. I'm also a 20-year Cleveland police officer. For the past 10 years, I've been a detective in white-collar crimes. I moved to South Euclid 5 years ago, and I actually love the city a lot. One of the things that I would like to do is to take my part, have some part as far as making the city more enjoyable for most of our residents. One of the biggest issues that we have are our tax dollars being really high and not having enough recreational facilities for our kids and our older kids, meaning me. I like to do whatever it takes to try and look at our budget and try to find the money and try to cut or try to make things a little bit leaner. And hopefully this is enough for you guys to give me a chance to do this next year. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, we'll get started with the audience questions. Oh my God. I'm sorry,
It's
Mr.
okay.
Tisdale.
She didn't mean that.
I did not, I apologize.
Good evening. My name is Justin Tisdale. I'm a 30-year resident of South Euclid. I grew up at Plainfield Road with my parents. I then went to Adrian Elementary. I went to Greenview Memorial, Brush, and then I went to Notre Dame College. I had no idea in hindsight that I was going to stay in South Euclid that long. I then played basketball at Notre Dame College. I got my education degree from Notre Dame College with a minor in political science and history. I taught at Riverside High School. I then came here to Brush to teach here for 10 years. And then just recently I left to go teach humanities at Hawkins, 7th grade. For me, I am on the Recreation Committee, and I too have been here, and there have not been many options for kids to do. So that's one focus that I want to put my energy in, is making sure that there are things for our youth to do, whether it be after school, on the weekends, and to also create an environment to where it's a safe space for them. I would also like to continue to build and move forward the South Euclid energy that we have, going from the block parties and the intersection activities and continue to build on those relationships, because a strong community is what we're looking for and want to continue to have. And I hope that you will vote for me in November to continue doing what I plan to do. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, now the audience questions. And we do have a couple write-in questions, so while we're collecting questions from the audience, I'll start with the questions that were sent in prior to the forum. And then I'll start again with Mr. Gelfand, and then we'll cycle, so we'll start with him, and then the next question will be Ms. Hardy, and Mr. Orr, and Mr. Tisdale. The first question is, what 2 or 3 factors do you see as critical to achieving lasting economic growth for our city?
Well, one of the things, to achieve economic growth for our city, I think we need to continue what we've been doing is encouraging people to come here. How do we do that? We fill in all the empty spaces. And what I mean by that, when I first ran for council 8 years ago, we had about 800 vacant homes. We have fewer than 200 vacant homes now. And it's still too many. But what we've been doing is working on making sure that all those spaces where the empty homes were are filled with either people buying the homes or rebuilding or tearing down and putting something else there like community gardens, and also the storefronts. We have a lot more storefronts. We have, at Cedar Center, not only do we have the national chains, but we're getting more local businesses like Nothing Bun Cakes and Seafood 65. So these are local, and so we keep doing that and having get-togethers like Bexley National intersection, and that's how we attract people to come here and fill it up.
Great, thanks. Ms. Hardy, same question. What 2 or 3 factors do you see as critical to achieving lasting economic growth for the city?
I think we need to work towards regionalism. We're doing a lot in that, and just to keep moving that forward, and to keep working on building the best housing stock that we have.
Great, thank you. Mr. Orr, same question. The 2 or 3 factors that you see as critical to achieving lasting economic growth for the city.
I think one of the things we need to do is start to bring in bigger businesses to the city. I know that the city is landlocked, but also I think the city, we have to work with certain businesses that are in the city to help them grow. One of the problems that I do have is that we have a lot of fast food restaurants, and for us who we have issues with our income taxes our income tax revenue being so low. That's one of the reasons why. I think we have to try and bring in more revenue to the city by trying to bring in more big businesses.
Okay, great, thank you. Mr. Tisdale, the 2 or 3 factors that you see as critical to achieving lasting economic growth for the city.
I would also agree with regionalization and also collaboration with other cities. Continuing to build the community to entice the younger generation to move into South Euclid. The average age is going down, and also to bring in the small businesses into those empty storefronts, so that we're not bringing in the bigger chains, and we have stabilized South Euclid community-based businesses that are in those storefronts.
Thank you. Do we have any audience questions here? Okay. Ms. Susan Hardy, you will be this will be your question first. This is for all candidates. What should be done about the deer population?
I'm going to be really blunt about this. To deny that calling is the best option is to deny science. All leading scientists agree. The Cleveland Metro Parks call their deer population. We are their natural predator. So are bears and so are wolves. Well, we don't have bears, we don't have wolves, we have people. We're the ones at the top of the food chain. It's our responsibility to get them in check.
Thank you. Mr. Orr?
I have to agree. I think calling is something that we have to start doing. Find out what other cities have done, so what's the best way to be able to solve the issue. Because of the amount of deer we have other animals also coming in, which also causes a problem. As far as I heard, even last week, there was a coyote in the dog park. That's what's going to happen. So somehow we have to start looking at the corner and find out what the best way to get that done.
Great. Thank you. Mr. Tisdale?
I think it's kind of twofold. I think that education is also a big part of it, and educating the community on how to deal with the deer population, and also doing what's best for the community. And if culling's the best thing for the community, then I think that we need to take care of the deer population. But also, it can't be the only thing. Also educating people on not feeding the deer and enticing them to come to the yards, and making sure that we're not adding to the problem.
Great, thank you. And Mr. Gelfand?
Yeah, 4 years ago, we were asked the same question, and at that time, we had just gotten a study from South Euclid in collaboration with 4 or 5 other cities, and they said at that time that the deer population wasn't the problem. And I knew that there was a problem, but it didn't seem like there was anything urgent that we needed to do, although some people said that it was urgent. Since then, we've seen our tomatoes get eaten by the deer, and I realized, well, there is a problem. What we have to do, first off, is it's 4 years later, and I've seen a lot more deer, and I see them. It's a bigger problem than it was 4 years ago. We have, through our recreation committee, we're going to have a series of meetings that are open to the public. A recreation committee meeting this coming Monday, 6 o'clock at City Council. The public's invited, and then the following last Monday of November, I think it's the 26th, whatever date that is, last Monday of November, we're going to have a public meeting about that. I want to hear from the public. I want to learn more about what the options are so we can make a decision.
Thank you. Next question, and I'll start with Mr. Orr for this question. The question is, we have a good court, a good judge, but money is a concern given our debt. What is your position regarding regionalization of our court?
I think what we have to do is to get as much information as far as what is the main issue as far as money goes. I think we have to figure out I think what we have to do is figure out what's really happening as far as the courts go, as far as money goes. I've always believed in doing a complete audit, number one. Number two, see how other cities deal with it. I'm not in favor of having court, of sharing court with another city. Excuse me. I'm not in favor of it at all. I think we have a very good judge. She's done an excellent job with the different programs. A lot of people have benefited from her program that may not be involved with other cities.
Thank you. Mr. Tisdale?
I think that we do have to make the best choice for the city and look at everything, whether it be keeping it, but I am in strong support of regionalization and collaboration. We already do it now with our services, our fire department, our police department, our dispatch. We also do it with Selrick baseball combined with Selrick softball. So I think you can also get better results if you can collaborate and bring two things together. And if it's regionalization and that's the best thing for the city, then that's the best thing for the city.
Thank you. Mr. Gelfand?
Well, I was at this table 2 years ago, too, when I was running for judge, and the people of South Euclid decided that my plan to explore regionalism for the courts wasn't the plan that they wanted, and so I'm here again running for council, not sitting on the bench. But I think that what we have to do is really look at the costs. I mean, I can't say too much because I'm being sued by the court for not increasing the budget from 600-some thousand to 900-some thousand. We have to cut costs. The state has taken away our municipal government, 50% of our municipal government fund. We have to be very careful about our spending. I think the judge does have some interesting, innovative programs, but interesting, innovative programs cost money, and she's asking the taxpayers to pay it, and we just don't have the money. So at some point or another, regionalization might be on the table again.
Great, thank you. And Ms. Hardy?
I actually haven't decided yet what the best option is. I only know what I've read in the newspaper, and there's a lot of unanswered questions. So until I get a chance to look through public records and really look at facts to decide, I can't voice an opinion either way. But if the decision was made that we needed to merge our court, I would very strongly push that we keep our unique flavors, like keeping our mental health docket and keeping our night court.
Great, thank you. This is a follow-up question, and this question is actually for Mr. Gelfand. Mr. Gelfand says, there has been consistent tension between the elected legislative branch and the judicial branch in our city. As a city leader, what have you done to bridge the gap and promote both branches working together for the betterment of our city?
Yeah, thank you for that question. When my colleagues on council wanted to have a resolution in council to merge the court with another court, I called the judge and I said, Your Honor, this resolution is likely to pass. I haven't decided how I'm voting yet, but it's likely to pass either 4-3 or 5-2, depending on how I vote. What can we do to make this resolution better for you, for your court? And she said, well, it says merge our court with another court. Why not make it symmetrical and say merge our court with another court or another court with our court? I got that in as an amendment. We passed it 5-2. And when I was running 2 years ago, I wanted to see us merge with Cleveland Heights and Euclid. But I reached out to the judge. I don't think any other member of council reached out to the judge. I reached out to the judge. I found out what was on her mind before I took any vote whatsoever on that resolution.
Great, thank you. The next question, the next question is along this lines, and it's addressed to Mr. Tisdale. Mr. Tisdale, you indicate you are in favor of regionalization of our courts. Have you attended our courts to observe the proceedings, and have you attended other regionalized courts to understand how they actually operate?
To be honest, no, I have not. I have just been on city council for 4 months. Took over the summer, so campaigning was on my mind, and then the start of school. So I have not had a chance, but from what I know and reading about regionalization and making sure that our city is financially stable moving forward, I think that is a good option to look at so that we are not financially in crisis years down the line.
Thank you. Now, the next question is, this is for all the candidates, but again, it's starting with Mr. Tisdale. Do you feel the city is segregated, and how can you make some improvements to the segregation, if it is segregated?
No, I do not feel the city is segregated. I have been in the city for 30 years. If you were to ask me that 30 years ago, I would have a different answer. But now, after teaching here for 10 years and seeing tables where you had black kids, white kids, Asian kids sitting at the same table, talking, playing, I am married to a white lady, and I have had no issues in the city at all, nothing but support. So no, I would not say that this city is segregated, nor would I say that any recent time do I believe that the city was ever segregated.
Okay, great, thank you. Mr. Gelfand, same question. Do you feel the city is segregated, and what improvements can be made?
I don't feel the city is segregated. I live in a great neighborhood in Precinct 4A, west of Warrensville, near Cedar Center, and we have neighbors who are black, white, Jewish, Christian, Muslim. We have block get-togethers. I go to block parties throughout the city. I see people and I talk to people of all different races and persuasions. And I think when we passed the non-discrimination ordinance, we saw people of all different genders and gender identities getting together and being supportive. We had some opposition too, but this is a democracy, and we embraced every opinion before we passed our legislation. I think it's a very, very diverse community, which I'm very proud of and I brag about.
Great, thank you. Ms. Hardy?
I would say yes and no. Our neighborhoods are fairly integrated. There are some that are a little more one demographic than the other. So as far as our housing, no. But as far as our schools, I would say yes. Our school population doesn't reflect our community population. And the more we can do to advocate for our schools, to help people understand how great our schools are, the better it will be as well.
Great, thank you. And Mr. Orr?
When I went to 2 days ago for city council for Ward 3, and I walked, it was every single street in Ward 3. To answer your question, there is a problem. The residents, the black residents was asked me the same questions about events that were held in the city. And it felt like it didn't support them, like they wasn't involved. This year when I ran again, as I'm campaigning, I got the same thing also. You know, yes, I know the city's trying to do, but they still haven't reached out to citizens to see what they want. For example, when we had rock on the band that we have had, I've had the same question. Why isn't there another kind of band? I've heard the questions left and right. I have.
Thank you. Mr. Gelfand, you are up next for the following question. What areas and city services could be more efficient and effective, and how would you improve them?
Well, I think our city does a good job of, our police and fire, for instance, when people call 911, they get very, very quick response. When they call the non-emergency number, they still get their services within a very short period of time. They're very responsive. I think we could do better if we had more money to pay more police and fire people, had a larger force. But I think that we're doing well with what we have. I support issue 66, which is not a tax increase, but will keep police and fire at the levels that they are. I think our service department is very responsive. I think, our city forces are doing a good job, and every time I call, when people report to me, they tell me that things are moving very well, and I want to continue to see that happen as on council next year.
Thank you. Ms. Hardy, same question. What areas and city services could be more efficient and effective, and how would you improve them?
I think our parks and recreation definitely could be more effective, could be more upgraded. I know in the Bexley Community Group, we've been talking a lot how there's not a lot for the 12 to 16 crowd to do, and we've been discussing ways, low-cost ways we can make changes and big-cost ways we can make changes, but it's become clear that our parks aren't as well maintained as they could be.
Thank you. Mr. Orr?
Yes, I have to agree. I have to agree with Susan. I think that's probably our biggest issue is having parks and rec facilities for the kids. When I go to the library, most of the kids are there when they should be at a park somewhere playing basketball or something like that, especially in the summer time. What I would love to do is to have a basketball court on Betsy Park. I think this is one of the few cities that I've seen one single basketball court. And I think that's something that is easy. We have, 6 softball/baseball fields, a couple pools. A basketball court is the easiest thing to actually maintain. And the cheapest to actually maintain.
Thank you. Mr. Tisdale?
I would also agree about Parks and Recs, also getting stuff for our youth to do. I also, this has been something that I've always complained about. One of our former basketball coaches was in the city, and I would always complain to him about the streets and the snow. And I would always say, man, we need to get these streets plowed. And I know it's a frustration for everybody, but it's just having enough trucks. South Euclid is a big city, and just having enough trucks, and that just comes with finding money to make sure that our service department has everything necessary so that the community can drive on the streets and not have to worry about snow still being on there when the streets are clear.
Thank you. question, I'll start with Ms. Hardy. What plans do you have for improving litter on our streets in South Euclid?
Getting more trash cans would be helpful. I know I brought it up at city council once, that Bexley Park specifically just needs more trash cans.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Orr?
Wow. The obvious answer, of course, is more trash cans. But I think that's probably it. I mean, that's it in a nutshell.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Tisdale?
I would say it's trash cans, education, and what I mean by education is making sure that our youth know the importance of a clean community, not to just throw garbage on the ground and just continue to walk and contact the block groups and see if we can't get groups together just on a weekend to go out and do some community cleaning around our areas. And I think that if we can show that we appreciate it as a community, hopefully others will follow.
And Mr. Gelfand?
Yeah, when my time in the Navy was ending, I was in La Spezia, Italy, and they gave me a voucher to get back home to, at that time, Norfolk. And I took the trains up to Paris, and I got to Paris really early in the morning. And I was walking around Paris, and I was seeing all the different storekeepers cleaning up and hosing down their sidewalk, and by the time, you know, the stores were opening, it was like sparkling. And the problem I see in South Euclid is that our storekeepers and our own, you know, merchants just don't do that. Some do, but many do not. And there are some businesses near where I live where it's just egregious. And I think that what I'm probably going to do is introduce some legislation requiring it. And also we need more trash cans.
Okay, great. This is a similar question to piggyback on what everyone just said. And I will start with Mr. Orr. Can we require businesses to supply and maintain the trash cans? What's your thoughts on that?
Well, I think if that business is already if that business is already paying for trash services, I would say that they should pay extra because they have a storefront. I don't think so. I think, you know, I think most businesses are usually do keep their storefront clean from what I've seen.
Thank you. Mr. Tisdale?
I don't want to deter any businesses from coming here because of cleanup, but I would make sure that something in there is written that they do have some responsibility, but it also goes to the community and making sure that the community as a whole is cleaning up, whether it's getting the block of small business owners to clean the blocks. I mean, everybody has to take responsibility. It can't just be put on one person.
Thank you. Mr. Gelfand?
Yeah, when I started my own small business, which is a law practice, I started getting all these catalogs from office supply companies, and one of the things that you see in these catalogs are garbage cans. And they have small garbage cans for under the desk. They have big garbage cans that you put outside your store. I think a cost of doing business is to clean up the garbage around your business, and I don't think we'd be shooing away any prospective business owners by having some fair rules and regulations about what store owners and storefronts need to do to keep their businesses clean. I think an investment in a garbage can is a very good one, and if they don't want to do it, the city could charge them something to put a city trash can in front of their business.
Thank you. And Ms. Hardy?
It's definitely something to consider. I wouldn't want to push for legislation unless it was absolutely necessary. I would hope that if there's a trash can in front of a business, out of the goodness of their hearts, they would just choose to empty it when it was needed. I know in my own neighborhood, I have a couple of vacant homes right next to me, and it's the right thing to do to just go over and pick up trash when it gets blown into those yards.
Thank you. And then our last and final question, this is going to be to all the candidates as well. For those who currently, and I'll start with Mr. Tisdale. For those who currently serve on City Council, what initiatives have you enacted to promote diversity and inclusion, especially as it relates to attracting young professionals to our city? If you don't currently sit on city council, what initiatives would you enact to promote diversity and inclusion, especially as it relates to attracting young professionals to our city? Mr. Tisdale.
Like I said, I've just started, so I really haven't pushed any initiatives. One thing though that I feel is important is making sure that everybody's story is told and heard, regardless of your race. Making sure that people know that this is a safe environment, a safe community, and that we are very diverse and continue to build on the forums that we are, the diversity forums that we are having. At Hawken, we have this great collaboration and partnership with Facing History, and even trying to figure out if we can't get any community involvement with a program like that.
Thank you. Mr. Gelfand?
Yeah, when Equality Ohio first came to South Euclid for a public meeting, I went to that meeting, and Keith Benjamin, our Community Affairs Director and Clerk of Council, was also at that meeting. And they were talking about non-discrimination ordinances, that there were very few of them, but they wanted to see more of those happen. And I said to Keith, we need to be on board with this. This is what we have to do. And Keith took the ball and ran with it, and we got a non-discrimination ordinance passed. I also encouraged my colleagues, which they passed unanimously, to pass a welcoming city resolution. That means everybody's welcome. I mean, we're a welcoming city, and that doesn't matter your nationality, your race, your religion. Everybody is welcome in South Euclid, and we promote that, and we should promote it, and we should be proud of that.
Thank you. Ms. Hardy?
I'm glad we're being billed as a welcoming city, but I think we need to turn our conversations into being more intentionally welcoming. The city of Dayton has been working on this since the 90s, and they've made good headway in becoming an intentionally welcoming city, and I think we can piggyback off of some of the things that they've done.
Thank you. Mr. Orr?
I do believe for the past few months, the city has been having diversity classes, which has been great for the past couple of months now. And I think we have to keep those classes going. Also, I think, as far as neighbors coming to your city, how many of you guys have actually seen someone move next door to you and go next door to, hey, how you doing today? I'm Curtis Orr. A lot of people haven't. Some people don't, live next door to a city council person, have no idea that a council person lives right next door to them. I've heard that. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's give our candidates a big round of applause. Before we get started, we have the candidates back in the room with us. I will go over the form rules again, just as reminders. Quickly, don't forget to turn off your cell phones or put them on mute. Each candidate has 2 minutes for an opening statement. We ask the candidates to make their statements from the table. Timekeepers will raise a 30-second card. Each response is limited to 1 minute. The timekeepers will notify you when there's 30 seconds, 15 seconds, and when to stop. Again, I will try to let you finish your thought, but we're going to try to keep your answer limited to 1 minute so we can get out of here on time. So with that being said, we're going to start with Ms. Smith, who will give her opening statement, and then we'll go to Ms. Welo.
Thank you.
Sure.
You don't want me to stand, do you?
No, you can stand. We just don't want you to roam in the audience.
I will not roam the
All
audience,
right.
I promise.
Thank
Good
you.
evening. My name is Shirley Smith, and I am a candidate for mayor of South Euclid. Prior to running for mayor of South Euclid, I was a state representative and also a state senator. I retired from being a senator, and after I left the Senate, the governor appointed me to the Ohio Parole Board, Governor Kasich. I am running for mayor so that the financial stability of our city will no longer be in jeopardy. My goal is to find a stream of revenue to move the city forward and keep in pace with the other cities around us. Because of failing housing stock, increased taxes, very little transparency by the current administration, bad investments such as Cedar Center, Oakwood Commons, and Greenville. Also, businesses with limited job creation abilities. These factors, all of these factors, has caused South Euclid to become one of the slowest comeback cities to rebound. As a mayor, I would implement my 3.5 Project to Prosperity. What that means is I would take immediate steps to restore our bonding rating that was downgraded in August. My administration would order a comprehensive audit of South Euclid finances, and as a part of the economic development plan that we have, we will recruit research and development firms or corporations and specialized healthcare facilities and expand on what we already have in South Euclid. And we will employ those people with high salaries as to increase our tax base here in South Euclid. It's very important for me to end with, I am a South Euclid resident. I am a South Euclid resident. There are rumors that I am not. I promise you, I am a South Euclid resident. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Welo?
Thank you. Mayor Georgine Welo for 16 years. I've lived in the city for 40 years, the whole 40 years since I've married my husband, who's a lifer. We raised 3 children here, and I'm the proud grandmother of 3. Dedicated to progress and committed to community. That is what my administration has brought you. It's not about just the mayor. It's about working together. And what we created? We have created new housing and community development programs. And we've worked to restore the city's housing stock. Every one of you that have lived here knows that it was a national housing crisis. And it was South Euclid that led the charge to bring back programs. We now have a 54.4% increase in median housing prices in the last 6 years. And how do you know that? Because all of our tax duplicates went up, right? Because that means the homes around us are selling for higher. We have over $160 million of commercial and residential investment in our city since 2010. That's because we brought in Sender's Pediatric Medical Center. We brought in Dr. Marx's foot clinic. We brought in the dental clinics. And yes, we did bring in Cedar Center because that's what courage is. Courage is about making change and sticking to it. We don't have an empty Severance. We don't have an empty University Square. We don't have a Severance. We don't have empty plazas like they have in Mayfield Heights. People wonder why we have what we have. We have it because we work together. Also, we've maintained our safety forces and our emergency response time because of you, because you have helped with our safety levy. And we've done hundreds of miles in road improvement. Our Community Development Corporation, One South Euclid, which I brought to South Euclid, has given $400,000 in grant money. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we will alternate again between the candidates asking the questions. The first question is came from a post that we received, and I'll start with Ms. Smith. Ms. Smith, what areas in city services could be more efficient and effective? How would you improve them? Which city services could be more efficient and effective, and how would you improve them?
I think the services that would be more effective or serve us best is the services that we offer at City Hall. Meaning, I think that the administration could be a lot more transparent, be a lot more open with the books, be a lot more open with things that are going on in terms of our finances to give people in the city a better idea of where we are in terms of our dollars. I mean, if we don't know that, then we can't function. Our garbage we can't, I'm sorry. Oh, okay. Then we can't give the people the services that we need in terms of our trash, in terms of our cleanup, whatever it is. If we don't know what's happening at City Hall with those services, then we can't help our citizens.
Thank you. Ms. Welo, same question.
Thank you. First of all, we have open checkbook through the state. You can go out and see every single month where your dollars are going. We also are the only community that has put a direct link to the salaries of everybody in City Hall. and our budget is also online. So we're very transparent where the money is. How can we get you better services? It's just like our dispatch. Going to joint dispatch seemed a little rocky at first, but we are delivering better services. Why? Because we are working regionally together so that when an ambulance is closer to maybe to University Heights, when we're coming up the hill, South Euclid goes. So what I've learned as a mayor is collaborations really do work in regionalization. I believe, wouldn't it be great if we could do something with our service departments where we actually don't lift a plow when we hit a line, maybe in Lyndhurst, we keep going, or Beechwood comes through, it'd be so much more efficient. And that is really what I'm hoping to do, is to bring more collaborations and regionalization so that we can work together to bring better service.
Thank you. Next question, we'll start with Ms. Welo. Where would you stand on reducing council from 7 to 5 people, given the population of South Euclid is only 20,000?
So if you go back and read the last charter, which was 2015, I think that's when it was, I was on the Charter Commission and I actually brought that issue to the Charter Commission. And I brought in that we should go with 3 wards and 2 at large. There were other people on the commission that decided it wasn't probably the best thing, and to see what our next go-around was with the census with population. Macedonia had done it. They went from 7 to 5, and many of their council people spoke to many of us and said it wasn't a good idea. I still think it's a great idea, and we'll see what the census says.
Thank you. Ms. Smith, same question. Where would you stand on reducing council from 7 to 5 people, given the population of South Euclid is only 20,000?
I think going to 5 people, I would agree with that. I think, given the demographics of the city, that the people would still have very good representation, so I don't have any problem with going to 5 people.
Okay, next question, start with Ms. Smith. Where will additional city income revenue come from?
I think that kind of monies would come from bringing big businesses in, as well as small businesses. We would have to make sure that we nurture those small businesses. We would make sure we'd have to educate them, bring in people from the state, so those small businesses that we do have in South Euclid could be successful. Now, we have to expand on what we have in terms of our hospitals, as I've already stated. We will have to bring in big businesses with high-paying jobs, such as research and development. We will also have to bring in skilled workers, medical facilities, because those are the kinds of entities that will build our tax base. So we have to make sure we bring in businesses.
Thank you. Ms. Welo, where will additional city income revenue come from?
So one of the places that we've really been working on is down on our manufacturing area. You will soon be seeing, and if you haven't seen, there'll be a 60,000 square foot addition to the Rochling company, which is out of Germany. The goal there is to bring in 26 high-paying jobs into that building, and in hopes that they only wanted to build it with 30,000 square feet. However, I brought to their attention that if they actually built it bigger, they could actually bring their Pittsburgh office there, and we could double the number of jobs. Also, University Suburban can have 1 more level. However, what we're seeing is that in the healthcare, they're not really looking at brick and mortar. It's more about looking at a doctor on the screen. And so they're not really big into adding more brick and mortar, but we're hoping that they will consider putting an urgent care in there. We've been working with them on that.
Thank you. Next question. What can you do to improve, and this is for Ms. Welo to start with, what can you do to improve the city streets, all the potholes?
So, does anybody know how many miles of roads we have in South Euclid? 150 miles of roads. So when you think about this, think about being all the way up at Cedar, all the way down to Trubisky, and we have a lot of hills and bridges. So what we've been doing is we've really been working hard on a new way to do the roads. We actually drive down them every single year. and we use the ODOT standard. So there is no road that is not being fixed that is not one of the worst roads. And I'm asking to please go online and look at our road, our actual road plan. So when I took over in 2004, we only had 21.5%, 57% excellent roads. In 2019, you have 41.36% roads that are top-notch, #1 roads. So what we've been doing is we've been taking the money and we're actually levering it towards grants. And what you're going to see is that we're going to be spending more money because in the past we were spending $300,000 paying on an old road levy that was done in the Bexley area.
Thank you. Ms. Smith, same question. What can you do to improve the potholes in the streets?
I would make sure that the people who are repairing the streets do a better job. I think that I would have them trained better than they're being, well, I can't say better than they're being trained, but I think that I would give them more training because when I look at the roads, they don't look like they've been trained to do the roads. So I would also look at how other countries and how other places are repairing roads, because in some places there are roads that are being repaired that don't need repair for years and years and years because of the material that they're using. So I would look at that one aspect and also get better training for the people who are repairing our roads.
Thank you. This question, the next question is specifically addressed to Ms. Smith. It says, Ms. Smith, your ideas for a housing strategy, what are your ideas for a housing strategy, and how do you think the city has managed the housing crisis?
Repeat that question for me.
Sure. What are your ideas for a housing strategy, and how do you think the city has managed the housing crisis?
Well, my ideas for a housing strategy is to bring in a city planner rather than operate through a CDC. I think somebody that's professional, that understands what he or she is doing, that have done it, that has evidence, that's working from evidence-based information will surely be better than somebody that's just employed and been on a job for 6 months or 8 months. I think what we need to do is plan our city for people to come. When you build a city, you build it for people to come. In other words, you want to know who your people are, like the millennials, the Gen X's, and then you build to those people, those demographics. You want to make sure that the houses that you have are functional, have functionality to them. So you make sure you know who your people are, who you're attracting.
Great, thank you. Am I allowed to rebut? No, we don't. Oh, okay. And, well, this question is actually for you, Ms. Welo. The statement was made that bond ratings went down for the city. Is this true, and what caused the decrease, the lower bond rating?
Yes, the bond rating went down. And I'll tell you why. And there was an actual article in the paper. In fact, I brought it with me, so because I figured it would be a question. And we're going to be putting this information online. So when they rate the bonds, and we only went down slightly. We went from a, hold on, sorry about that, because I don't want to give any misinformation on this. So the city of South Euclid went from a AA3 to a AA2. And why? Because of 2 factors that we cannot control. One, it's the way the Ohio, how our actual state auditors report our pension funds. So the pension funds go to the state. We do not manage them. If they actually go belly up, we do not have to pay our employees. That was managed separately. However, they have told us that that doesn't show on the actual state audit. And the second one is that we have not come up to the national level on the housing sale prices in the state of Ohio. We are still lagging behind the national average, but they said we are managed very fiscally well.
Thank you. Thank you. Next question for both candidates. Ms. Smith, what is your position regarding regionalization of the courts?
I am absolutely, totally against it. I think that our courts, or our court is being run by the judge, and she's doing a very good job. She has implemented many programs, and I think because of the problem that we're having with Walmart and the demographic of people that are shopping at Walmart, it's good when a person goes to court that they could see somebody that looked like them, and that person understands their social and economic background. If we move our court, which the Supreme Court has come down and said, no, we're not going to do that. And I think it's a moot point at this point. I think we'd be doing an injustice to our children and poor people, minorities, if we moved our court.
Thank you. Ms. Welo?
Yes, thank you. So I was on city council, and I fought city council. There are a lot of editorial pages on it if you want to look it up. And I said we could not move from a part-time court to a full-time court because we could never support it. We have never been able to support it, and there is no reason we can't move to a regional court. Lyndhurst Court services Mayfield Heights that has 3 times the amount of retail, and they have a lot of shoplifting from Walmart, Target, Marks, and all the other places. So does Highland Heights, Big Lots, and all those places, and so does Richmond Heights. And they're all in that court, along with Gates Mills, Mayfield Village. So yes, a regional court can work. And our court is very small. And here's the deal. A judge is a judge. They have to have a judicial demeanor. They have to be able to look at you no matter who you are. And I believe that any judge does that. And lastly, oh, I have to stop. Sorry.
Thank you. The next question is candidate specific. The next question is for Ms. Welo. Ms. Welo, you indicated you are about working together for the betterment of South Euclid, yet you consistently attack our elected judicial officers. How do these attacks demonstrate your ability to lead us in working together as a city?
So I don't know where I've ever attacked anyone. So if someone would like to actually bring me any kind of literature, an article, but I have never, ever attacked. It's not my nature. I don't do it.
Thank you. Next question, Ms. Smith. Ms. Smith, you've criticized Cedar Center development. What would you have done differently?
I don't think I've criticized Cedar Center. I think I've been very factual. I think that the monies, I think that Cedar Center, I know that Cedar Center is a pig with lipstick, because Cedar Center, 50% of the dollars that come to property tax dollars goes to Cleveland Heights and University Heights School District. 25% of the income of the payroll taxes go to Cleveland Heights and University School System. The rest of the money is used to pay down the debt. The debt, we are in debt until 2042. We don't get any money. We don't get to use any of that money from Cedar Center. That is a pig with lipstick. What would I have done different? I would have looked at the fact that Cleveland Heights and University Heights, we're sitting in their school district, and since we're sitting, I have to stop.
50 seconds.
Since we're sitting in that school district, we were going to have to pay them money. So I think I would have looked at that portion of it before I sat on with a 30-year TIF and decided that it's something that we should do or should not do.
Thank you. Next question for both candidates. I'll start with Ms. Welo. How can South Euclid better position itself as a green community?
So right now, we are the envy of most cities. We have worked very hard to be sustainable. We have brought in different developers to bring us sample housing in the area of green sustainability. In fact, you can even get the plans from us right off the website. We also have our community gardens, and we actually have worked really hard at looking how we can become more sustainable in the way of our rubbish, and also how we bring businesses in. Because one of the things we look at is how sustainable will they be here with us in our community. And I think the fact that our average age is 39 years old, the average age of a resident is 39 years old in South Euclid, that we are bringing millennials in here, and they are big on being able to be walkable, and our transit, and I think, and our housing stock.
Thank you. Ms. Smith, same question.
Would you repeat that question?
Sure. How can South Euclid better position itself as a green community?
Oh, I think it's only not only one way, but the smartest way is the education.
Thank you. Next question is for both candidates, and I will start with Ms. Smith. It's back to the deer population again. Do you feel the deer population should be controlled, and how would you do it?
I think that it should be controlled. I have seen so many deer lately that I think it's going to start some kind of disease or, yeah, because it's so much. You don't know where it's going to come from because they'll go in your yard and they'll stand next to you like, you know, they're human beings. And what I think I would want to do is do a study. I think Councilman Tisdale said, and I think he had a very good idea. I think we do need to study that population and do something about it. What, I don't know at this time, but it does need to be addressed.
Thank you. Mayor, Ms. Welo?
So as the mayor, you are the administrator. You do not have a vote on if we will cull or not. That will come from City Council. However, I'm going to support my council in whatever endeavor they choose. And I have brought many different, Councilwoman Gray is the chairperson of the Recreation Committee, and I brought her a lot of information from different communities. Different communities do it different ways. But culling is being done all around us. And what I've really realized is that it is a twofold way of doing it. Not only do you have to look at how you cull, but you also have to look at educating the residents, because why do the deer come here? We have, you know, lush plants, we're feeding them corn, we're putting out apples. I mean, I could tell you numerous, going door to door. It's a very tough call. However, I will tell you that it's a safety issue. There's too many people being, you know, their cars being hit by deer.
Thank you. Next question for both candidates. And I'll start with Ms. Smith. How much money do you estimate the safety levy will bring in, and what will the money go towards?
I don't have an accurate idea, but I would say somewhere in the area of $2 million. And I would hope it go to our fire and safety.
Thank you. Ms. Welo?
So it brings in approximately about 2.2 million. However, this year, it brought in another extra $130,000 because of the property values going up. So how it works is when you pass a levy, let it be the road levy or the safety levy, the Ohio Revised Code is very specific. The money can only go towards the specific issue. So our money only goes to the safety forces when it's the safety levy, and the road levy, it only goes to your roads. With our safety levy, what we've done is we actually take the money that comes in and we split it 50-50. And we let the departments choose, because, how can I say this? I can say I want 5 guys, and the chief might say you only need 3 guys and we need this technology. So working with our chiefs, we've really been able to manage your money effectively. And I hope that you looked at the magazine, and if you threw your magazine out and you're really asking this question, pick up another magazine, because we made sure that we put in there how your safety dollars are being spent.
Thank you. Next question for both candidates. And I will start with Ms. Welo. How can South Euclid attract new residents?
It's our #1 job every single day. So we've worked really hard with our real estate friends. We do a concierge service in which the your realtors actually bring people in and meet with us. They meet with Sally Martin, our housing manager. They meet with our different teams. We've actually do a Realtors Day every May. We do it as a CLE class. We sell it out at 100 people. We get sponsors and we bring them in, and they actually get a CLE for learning all about South Euclid. We also have worked with many different banks and looking at loans and how we can loan more money, because not everybody can afford a $200,000 or $300,000 home. And they do have the wages to get a home for $100,000 or $105,000. So we're really passionate about that. And we also, lastly, have worked with our CDC. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Smith, same question. How can South Euclid attract new residents?
Well, first of all, you have to have a very good school system. Very good school system where the programs in the school meet the needs of the parents and of the children. You also have to have places, and I'm sorry, not places, but amenities and businesses that support those people's lifestyles. In other words, people want a place to live where they can live, work, and play. So if they don't have that, they're not attracted to the city. For instance, South Euclid don't even have a restaurant, a nice restaurant that we could go and sit down in, a family restaurant. You have to go to Beechwood or Lyndhurst to do that. So if you don't have those type of amenities and a good school system, you cannot attract people from the outside.
Thank you. Next question, both candidates. No, I'm sorry. The next question is for Ms. Smith. It's good to hear you say you want to bring in new streams of funding for the city. Can you be specific about where the funds will come from?
Well, you bring the funds in by attracting new businesses, small and large. You bring in entrepreneurs. You make sure that the people that you're bringing into the businesses are paying high-paying salaries. That's why I mentioned earlier about the skill facilities or expanding on the hospitals or research and development, because those jobs usually pay a lot of money, and so you build your tax base that way. So you have to bring in businesses and also bring in partnerships to support the tax base that you need.
Thank you. Next question is specifically for Ms. Welo. Ms. Welo, how do you demonstrate working together with the judicial branch? How do you demonstrate that currently?
So we have 3 branches of government, and I am in charge of the city, and I only work with the city in the budget. The judge goes before city council and presents her own budget, and she runs her own institution. How do I work with the court? I make sure that it's clean, that we have our building any problems are taken care of. I make sure that any services that they need, we fulfill. And we make sure that we handle any of their purchase orders that come through the finance department. We order their paper, and it's just the simple things, because when you have your own municipal court, the judge is the administrator and the financial person for that court. And for the city, I handle the city end.
Thank you. Next question for both candidates. How can, and I'll start with Ms. Smith, how can our council, library, and schools collaborate on services, facilities, financial practices, and planning to improve outcomes and/or reduce costs?
I think you just said it. With all those people, all the interested parties, you have to sit down and plan, and you plan for the results. How do we resolve the issue? So if you have all interested parties at the table and you want a good outcome, then you have to work towards that.
Thank you. Ms. Welo?
So we work hand in hand with both the library and the school district. We purchase salt for all 3. The school district, we do not own a lift in our community to change lights and things like that, so the school district allows us to borrow their lift. We work with the library in regards to programming. If you notice, many of our programs are at the library. And most importantly is youth. We have the MyCom program in our city, and we work with the school district, the libraries, all of our nonprofits, and our churches. And we have a very robust program with the youth. We also are looking at how to build a center. Both the Baptist Church is looking at the Faith Walk Center. They're breaking ground. They hope to be breaking ground next year. And also the Methodist Church is looking at breaking ground to build basketball courts that would be actually housed at their church so that they would have parents and advisors there. So we do look at costs.
Thank you. Next question, both candidates. I'll start with Ms. Welo. What is your plan for the next 4 years to move the city forward?
So I want to actually read it or answer it in the right way. My plans for the future is, number one, is to work with City Council so that we can reinstate the income tax credit. I don't think there's anybody in this room, including the council, current council members and those coming in, it is critical that we are able to do that. I think that moving forward, we need to have more meetings, and I actually want to look to put a committee together to see if we're looking at every possible way. I'm going to implement over $8 million in major road improvements on South Green Road, South Belvoir, and Warrensville Road and Cedar Road by 2023. Complete the revitalization of the Mayfield Green Business District in 2024. I'm going to continue to prioritize our housing stock and keep our residents' investments in their homes stable and growing. And I'm going to keep South Euclid as one of the safest, because we are first-ring suburbs in the region. And I'm going to continue to promote South Euclid as a welcoming and diverse place to live, because there is no better place that has innovation
Thank you.
and sustainability than South
Great,
Euclid.
thank you. Ms. Smith, same question. What are your plans for the next 4 years to move the city forward?
Well, as I said, I would take immediate steps to restore our bond ratings and also do a comprehensive audit of the books of South Euclid, the finances of South Euclid. I would also make sure that our police and fire reflect our community. Right now, it's 39 firemen, and there's only 1 black. There's 39 policemen, and there's only 4 blacks, 3 being women. So I would make sure that's done. I would also make sure that I would do an annual State of the City address. I would make sure that our council is video or streamed live every time we have a council meeting. I would make sure that we have an improved homeowners loan program so people can get their houses fixed at an affordable rate. And I would make sure that we perform an extensive review of our nuisance ordinances, because some people think that they're being disproportionately treated. And I would create a landlord accountability program, or ordinance, I'm sorry, because...
Thank you. Next question is for Ms. Smith. Ms. Smith, you said Greenville was a poor investment. Have you spoke with the Greenville residents about what it was like before the city stepped in, and have you reviewed the police reports?
No, I have not reviewed the police report. I have talked to the people on Greenville because I have been campaigning in that area, and they are very dissatisfied that there was buildings or houses torn down and nothing to replace it. So there is a dissatisfaction of tearing down houses and leaving the empty lots.
Thank you. Next question is for Ms. Welo. What have you done to address the housing crisis?
So first of all, I identified it and brought it to the county, just to let you know, because I walked in 2003 as mayor, and I'm like, why is that house empty? Why is that house empty? So what grew out of that? So we have over 35 new homes built in the city since 2010, because we have $7 million invested, with the average sale price of $170,000 from the homes that we tore down. I also, in the last 2 years, 172 former rental homes were sold to owner-occupied, so we know that our programs are working. And most importantly, since the housing and foreclosure crisis in 2010, over 1,000 formerly vacant homes have been fully renovated. And we have the lowest foreclosure rate since 1995.
Go Sally.
Okay, let's hold our applause. Thank you. Next question for both candidates. I'll start with Ms. Smith. Ms. Smith, what space does South Euclid have to attract new businesses?
Amen.
What space? Well, there is a space that the mayor's team is looking at, the CDC, on the corner of Green and Mayfield. They have that spot. Then they have a spot that's next to the church on on Green Road, where the hospital is. And for the facilities that I am promoting, it would be a hospital facility. So when you can't grow out, you grow up. So there is space in South Euclid to grow up.
Thank you. Ms. Welo, same question.
So we are pretty much built out. It's going to be a little rough, but I will tell you this. Mayfield and Green has great potential. We do know that a lot of the properties there are obsolete. However, our CDC did put a plan together, and we are hoping that we'll be making some good announcements come the beginning of the year. When it comes to, and the place that we feel that we're really putting a lot of investment and time in, is our manufacturing area. We are near University Circle. We know that at Case Western Reserve and the clinic in UH, they're working on a lot of different patents. And we're hoping that, and they're growing them there. And we're hoping that they want to stay close to the circle. And we're hoping that, and we're working at, and we're actually promoting our manufacturing area because they can get right downtown, right to the circle in like 9 minutes. So we're hoping to bring great innovation down to that area.
Thank you. Next question is for Ms. Smith. Ms. Smith, you have been openly critical of the South Euclid Lyndhurst schools. Have you spoken to the administration, and how do you propose to improve them?
I could answer that question if I had been critical of the schools, but that's not true.
Thank you. Ms. Welo, back to the trash cans. Why are there no trash cans in front of small to medium retail establishments?
So let's talk about money. Who's going to maintain those trash cans, right? Right now, you have 19 servicemen. When I came in 2004, before the crisis, and before the state legislature took our money away, we had 42 people working in our service department between full-time and part-time. So what have we done? We had to look at how can we effectively keep your services the best we can. We cross-trained. Everyone now does every job. We've used technology, and to maintain and to really effectively maintain the rubbish cans that would be out in the public, you would probably need to add 1 or 2 more people. Seriously, that we do have cans in major areas. If you look down by Brush High School, some at Mayfield and Green, Cedar Center, Monticello and Green, but it's a lot to maintain. So hopefully in the future, we'll have a better program.
Thank you. Next question, both candidates. How should the city collaborate with other municipalities and utility companies in order to upgrade and maintain a healthy infrastructure of sewers, water, and electricity systems? I'll start with Ms. Welo.
Number one, the sewer district is really becoming our friends. They have grants, which we've been applying for. When you see our new our sewer jet vac that cleans our sewers, that was a grant from the sewer department. They're also coming in. We've been maximizing whenever we do a road, we actually camera, and we put into Mayor Jackson's program for the water department to get new water mains and to get new Dominion East Ohio gas lines, and also the sewers. I think the one thing that we really can do is to keep the pressure on our state legislators that we keep aggregation here in Ohio. Your rates are down, and we know that the big companies are coming after us so that they can have a monopoly again, and we'll be paying to switch their coal-powered plants to gas.
Thank you. Ms. Smith, how should the city collaborate with other municipalities and utility companies in order to upgrade and maintain a healthy infrastructure of sewers, water, and electricity systems.
I think that is one thing that the mayor and I will agree on tonight, maybe two things we'll agree on tonight, is that we do have to look to the state to bring in help, and also have the city as one of our liaisons to talk to the state, because most times the cities, meaning big cities like Cleveland, have a very strong relationship with the state government, so I think we would have to look to the state government to help us.
Thank you. And final question, unless we get some more questions from the audience. And I'll start with Ms. Smith. How do you support the school district?
I support any and all school districts because I support our children. I would like to see more programming that kind of coordinate with the unconventional trends that the children have now. But I support our school district and every school district wholeheartedly.
Thank you. Ms. Welo, how do you support the school district?
So I've supported the school district from the moment I met my husband and married him. In fact, I took him to his first musical here in 1979 at Brush High School. There is nothing more special to a city than their school district. Our 3 children went through this school district. They never have to ask me. I'm always there for them. I go to the band concerts, the art programs, and my husband and I, we support them financially in any way we can. I read to the students. I was a math counts tutor even before I was a mayor. For me, these schools, and of course, the Cleveland Heights University Heights schools. I'll be taking my parents next Wednesday to see their musical. They're doing Damn Yankees, so if you want to go. And also supporting them in any way I can. Marty knows they have great fundraisers there too, and I go and speak in the schools. Anything that you can do to support your schools is important. In fact, you should go on their website and see all the different opportunities they have here.
Thank you. One last question. This is it, because we are running out of time. I'll start with Ms. Welo. Ms. Welo, how do you plan to build better relationships with the judicial branch?
So it's kind of hard when they're suing you, so I guess we'll have to wait till after the 2 lawsuits are finished.
And Ms. Smith,
About the judicial system?
yes, how do you plan to build a better relationship with the judicial branch?
I don't have any problems with the judicial branch. The judicial branch and Shirley Smith get along just fine.
Thank you. Okay, I'm sorry. That's me. Thank you for all your questions. If I did not get to your questions, feel free to ask the candidates. Most of them are still here, so you can talk to the candidates, get literature, or call the candidates directly. They have their numbers on their literature, and I would like to thank you and the candidates. Give all the candidates a round of applause.